On the evening of December 17, 2024, around 5:30 p.m., at the intersection of 5th and Olive, one of the most bustling spots in the city, or at least, a place where drive-through joints abound, an unforgettable event unfolded. A call came into the police from a drive-through employee, reporting that a special customer was struggling to maneuver their vehicle, and it seemed it wasn't due to a desperate rush to get home for dinner. With a heart full of concern, the employee expressed worry for the customer, who, according to the report, appeared to be driving under the influence. Perhaps it was the shock of the fast food's mystery ingredients, or who knows what else, but the police immediately sprang into action. And so, just a few minutes into their investigation, the police arrived at the scene, where Hillary had parked her car in a perfect condition, a minor traffic violation, but just enough to make the police feel like they were in the middle of a tense detective show. No dim lighting, no eerie shadows, and definitely no thrilling murder mystery with cryptic clues. Instead, it was a series of simple tests that seemed more like a routine health checkup, all to determine if the dinner Hillary had just enjoyed involved any alcohol. And guess what? Surprise, surprise! After all those easy tests that we've all seen before, the outcome was, oh, what a shocker! The police discovered that Hillary had, indeed, consumed a little alcohol. Hard to believe, right? I'm sure both the police and Hillary were equally shocked by this revelation. With all the patience and finesse of seasoned investigators, the police proceeded with a series of health checks on Hillary and assessed her ability to drive. No one wants to witness someone who just drove by a fast food place, only to take control of a car in an impaired state. You can't help but imagine the scene, a woman, just trying to grab a quick snack, stumbling and needing to go through a series of tests as though she were taking her driving test in an action movie. The police, of course, couldn't overlook such a situation, even if it was a sort of artistic interpretation of driving, something like slowly strolling out of the drive-through. But rest assured, they did everything they could to make sure she wasn't turning her car into a street racing nightmare. The first conversation with the police, a moment so loaded with drama, you'd swear it was ripped straight from a soap opera. You know, the kind of thing where you can almost hear the dramatic music playing in the background and feel the sweat slowly beading on your forehead. Seriously, it's one of those situations where you just want to bury your face in a pillow, scream, and pray it's all a bad dream. Now, imagine this. Here comes Officer Sirius, walking up to the car like he's auditioning for a role in the next big crime thriller. He's got that perfect cop demeanor, all business, no nonsense, and a stare that could probably melt steel. Then, out of nowhere, he hits you with this gem. Are you feeling all right? Like, are you flying high like a superhero, or are you more like a busted car stranded in the middle of the freeway? Wait. Hold up. Is this a health checkup or a Marvel casting call? I mean, seriously, flying high like a superhero? What? Is this the start of a superhero origin story? Are we about to find out that Hillary has some secret power to stop time or shoot laser beams out of her eyes? Because if that's the case, she's definitely going to need to sober up first if she's going to save the world. And if you think about it, that line is so dramatic, it could have been lifted straight out of a TV medical drama. Tell me, Miss Hillary, do you feel more like Iron Man after a long night out, or like a broke-down Honda Civic on its last leg? I mean, it's the kind of question that makes you question whether they're just trying to figure out if you're fit to drive, or if they're auditioning for the next Marvel movie. Because honestly, at this point, it wouldn't be surprising if the officer pulls out a script and asks Hillary to improvise a few lines. All right, Hillary, we're looking for an emotional range here. Can you give me a little tipsy, followed by tragically sober? You've got 10 seconds. What a way to kick off an evening, right? And what does Hillary do? Oh, she nails the classic response, of course. No, I haven't been drinking or using drugs, because, naturally, that's the answer the officer's dying to hear. I mean, who wouldn't believe her? She's totally fine, except for the fact that she's looking at him like he's the one who's been sipping on something a little stronger than coffee. But hey, what's a couple of upside-down sunglasses and a wild look in your eyes when you've got a good, old-fashioned denial in your back pocket, right? And the best part? It's not just that she's delivering this response with a kind of confidence usually reserved for people who've just aced a pop quiz they didn't study for, but it's the way she's looking at the officer. You know, the kind of look you give someone when you're trying to figure out if they're speaking English or if you've somehow wandered into a parallel universe where logic and reason have thrown in the towel. You can practically hear her inner monologue doing somersaults. Wait, hold on, did he just ask if I was okay? What did he say? Oh my God, am I in a movie right now? What kind of bizarre episode of reality is this? It's like she's in a fever dream where the rules of the universe are simply taking a break for the day, and everyone else is playing by a script she wasn't given. You almost expect her to start looking around for the hidden cameras. It's like watching a deer in headlights, except, plot twist, this isn't a deer. It's a woman who's clearly never had the pleasure of reading the handbook on how to keep your cool when you're confronted by a cop who, let's be honest, looks like he might have just come from his umpteenth late-night donut run. You can almost see the wheels turning in her brain, except instead of a smooth, coordinated thought process, it's more like a dial-up internet connection trying to load a web page. The confusion in her eyes is practically glowing. It's that glazed, wide-eyed, I have no idea what I'm doing look, the kind you get when you show up at a final exam for a class you didn't even know existed. Meanwhile, she's furiously rummaging through her purse like it's some kind of magic bag where answers to pop quizzes magically appear. Newsflash, honey, you're not going to find a How to Talk to a Cop When You're Not Sober pamphlet in there. But wait, folks, there's more. The piece de resistance? Her sunglasses are on upside down. Yeah, because if you're going to pretend like you're some deep cover agent trying to outsmart the fuzz, you might as well do it with style, right? It's the kind of fashion statement that screams, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it with confidence. I mean, if you're going to turn into a walking car wreck, at least make sure you're accessorized for it, right? It's like someone said, just throw on some shades, and she went, I got this, and ended up looking like a toddler who just discovered her first pair of adult-sized sunglasses. It's a beautiful mess, a true spectacle of confusion, poor decision-making, and a tiny bit of fashion disaster all rolled into one. And then, the police started with simple tests, like eating a cookie, something anyone could do, unless you're Hillary. I think, if you can't pass this test, then you shouldn't even think about driving through an intersection without crashing into a streetlight. The police, with a voice that was gentle yet clearly full of expectation, said, Hillary, can you follow my finger? Sounds easy, right? Just move your eyes along the finger, as if you're playing a game of follow my finger in a primary school class. Nothing complicated, right? Surely you can do it, Hillary. But no, dear Hillary, let me tell you, this isn't a game of follow my finger without letting your eyes wander out. At this point, the police were probably thinking, oh, something interesting is going to happen here. A simple test like this will definitely show if she can drive without needing to ask for directions again. Let's see what happens. But instead of what they hoped to see, someone who could follow the finger without interrupting the magical gaze, Hillary was completely lost. Not only could she not follow the finger, but she started looking left, then right, as if preparing for a test of which way to crash. Honestly, this is the kind of test you do during your lunch break before deciding if you can drive or not. But Hillary, oh, she proved that not everyone is good at following the finger of the police. The police, probably thinking, oh, do I really need to check her vision before she can see the road clearly? So Hillary, even though she couldn't do a simple follow-the-finger test, you must understand that everyone here just wanted to make sure she wasn't the type of person who would drive fast on the street and then turn around to ask, which way am I supposed to go? The police put a lot of effort into this, and she didn't take the follow-the-finger test seriously. How wonderful! And then, it was time for the straight-line walk challenge. Kind of like, all right, let's see if she can walk straight without falling over like a scene from a slapstick comedy. Surely, who wouldn't love a challenge like that, right? Hillary, at this point, seemed like she was in an intense competition called Who Can Balance the Best Without Making the Whole World Spin? She responded with a face as if she had just received an invitation to join a reality fitness show. I have a new hip joint. I'm not sure if I can walk straight. But don't be too happy thinking she would back out. Oh no, Hillary wasn't the type to easily give up on a challenge, especially when it could turn into an interesting party story later on. Instead of saying, "No, I can't," she entered the conversation as though she just won an Oscar for Best Genuine Acting. "I have a new hip joint, but I can still do it if needed." Looking at her now, you might imagine a slow-motion movie scene, with soft music and shimmering lights, as she tries to walk as if she's the star of a comedy film. Who knows, right? Maybe she'll walk straight, at least in this frame of the movie, before returning to the uneven rhythm life has in store for her. Ah, Hillary, you really delivered an unforgettable performance. When the police asked her to perform the straight-line walk test, the kind most people can do even in high heels, Hillary couldn't help but be confused. Instead of stepping up and doing the test like a normal person, she started complaining about her problematic hip joint. Imagine the police standing there, unsure whether to laugh or cry. In fact, the straight-line walk test wasn't that complicated. It's simply walking from point A to point B without doing anything tricky, like jumping rope or flipping upside down. But for Hillary, this seemed like a challenge akin to asking her to run a marathon after completing 10 laps around the house. She might have taken a few steps, but it seemed like each step made her feel like she was walking on clouds. Walk straight, she probably thought. Who can do this? And don't forget Hillary's honesty. She wasn't shy about explaining that walking was a challenge due to her new hip replacement. She wasn't just drunk. She had recently undergone a challenging hip surgery. The police were probably wondering, can this hip replacement be a reasonable excuse for all kinds of traffic violations? But unfortunately, no one bought this excuse. Ah, Hillary. She wasn't just a driver, she was a performer. Instead of walking straight, like any normal person, she decided to showcase a walk that could make Broadway bow in admiration. A beautiful curve, not a boring straight line. Surely, she didn't need to take a class on how to walk straight. Who needs a straight line when you can create such an artistic curve? The police seemed a bit surprised, but instead of panicking and calling 911, they continued with the test as if they were testing the IQ of someone who had just drunk a bottle of tequila. The real question here was, Hillary, do you remember how to walk straight, or are you preparing for a role in a comedy play about the sobriety of a police test? Despite everything seeming a bit chaotic, the police didn't back down. They kept doing a series of tests, as if playing a game of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Drunk version. And you can't deny, maybe this wasn't such a bad idea. After all, who needs a driver's license when you can get your IQ tested while a little tipsy? Ah, the alphabet test. A simple challenge, right? Well, at least for everyone who still remembers how to read the alphabet after finishing elementary school. But no, Hillary, our hero, made everyone question her ABC skills. When the police asked her to start with the letter F and end with T, all she could do was look at them with the face of someone who had just been asked to take a test they never prepared for. F, she started, but then, wait a minute, what is she doing? She repeated the letter F, as if looking for something secret in it that only she knew. And then, oh no, she started over, this time with the letter Q. Everyone was confused, and probably even she was too. From there, she listed the letters like she was playing a confusing word puzzle. T, Q, R, S. Oh, well done, Hillary, excellent. Who doesn't remember the first letter of the alphabet? Don't worry, it's probably just a little mix-up. But don't worry, she still had a chance to try again. The police were probably trying to stay calm, while Hillary seemed to be in a guess-the-letter competition with no prize. And don't forget, this happened just before she was asked to perform a series of tests that seemed even more complicated than rearranging the alphabet. But look on the bright side, at least she didn't start with Z, because who knows where she would have gone from there. The police, seemingly not done yet, decided to have fun with a countdown from 72 to 51. Everyone knows that for a normal person, that's just a minor math problem requiring little thought. But for Hillary, who had just enjoyed a little alcohol everything immediately turned into a fun math adventure, and perhaps a chaotic one. She started fiercely with the number 72, as if that were the starting point for a speed race, but then, for some reason, she switched straight to T, Q, R. Wait, is this counting down or a word game? No one asked her to recall the alphabet in this test, but it seems Hillary was creating her own test style. Instead of messy numbers, she offered up a mysterious puzzle about letters that only those capable of decoding would understand. Clearly, the countdown completely went off course. Perhaps instead of focusing on decreasing from 72, Hillary was trying to reduce her own confusion. And so, instead of continuing with numbers, she decided to go straight to freedom, or at least try, as if this math problem was the key to getting out of this situation. Anyway, she succeeded in showing one thing. If you're looking for freedom in a DUI test, maybe what you need isn't accuracy but creativity in creating your own problems. When all the questions, tests, and silly answers ended, we all realized one clear thing. Hillary could not complete the test accurately. She might have endured the police to the point where they felt like they were in a competition for who can endure the longest. But for sure, she couldn't pass the mental or driving skills tests. For example, the finger-following test. She was like a cat seeing a mouse and not knowing what to do. The straight-line walking test. If there were a Walk Like a Drunk Panda award, Hillary would definitely have won a gold medal. The police probably had a little hope when they asked her to read the alphabet from F to T, but the result was, let's call it creative. Hillary didn't just skip a few letters. She added a few that probably only exist in some secret book somewhere. And don't forget the countdown test from 72 to 51. She might have counted down from 72 to... actually, Hillary probably got confused and counted to a completely different number only she knew. Maybe next time, the police will need to bring a calculator or an Excel sheet to help her solve this math problem. In conclusion, Hillary might not be an expert at passing tests, but she certainly taught everyone an important lesson. Never underestimate the creative power of someone who's had one too many drinks. Sure thing, 11 a.m., the time that Hillary thinks is early morning, while in reality, she could have swapped day for night already. 11 a.m., you know? The time when most people haven't even had lunch yet, but Hillary considers it early morning. And don't forget, this early morning happens on a day when Hillary doesn't even realize the sun is beginning to set below the horizon. Perhaps, for her, 11 a.m. is morning, and when the sun begins to set, she thinks, well, maybe I've had a little bit, but definitely not enough to get me drunk, right? And so, every time she tries to explain, it only makes the situation even more amusing. Like a comedy film where the main character never understands what's going on until everyone starts looking at her like she's a chicken in a bar. Oh, don't worry, Hillary isn't someone who cares about time. She doesn't even realize what time it is. That's right, you didn't hear wrong, just a few hours had passed, but she thinks. I think it's 11 a.m., right? Hillary asks, with a look of doubt as if she's solving a difficult math problem. Well, no, Hillary, 11 a.m. was just a few hours ago. Now, it's 5:30 p.m. A time gap twice or three times longer than she imagined. Looking at her, it's easy to understand that she's not only struggling with the concept of time, but also with her own memory. It's like every time she says 11 a.m., a clock keeps ticking without explaining why Hillary thinks the sun hasn't even crossed halfway along the horizon. Maybe, for her, everything exists in a general brightness range, without distinguishing between morning and evening. Perhaps she doesn't need to worry about time, because Hillary's world seems to exist outside the constraints of clocks and schedules. Who needs time when you can live by your own sense of feeling, right? And then, like in every Hollywood police movie, that legendary moment that everyone knows is coming, the breathalyzer test. You know, that test is like the lifesaver card for police officers. Like, hello, we won't bother you anymore, just blow into this device and you're good. And, as always, the result is a masterpiece in confusion. Hillary, apparently, had too much confidence in her alcohol tolerance, Or maybe she thought that just admitting to a little bit would make the police say, "Oh, you've had a little? Well, that's fine. Get in the car." But in reality, it wasn't like that. Her admission of a little drink this morning only made everything more confusing and humorous. In fact, that little drink was a full-on drinking spree that Hillary seemed to have forgotten in the early morning haze. Maybe she thought time stood still when she drank at 11 a.m., but when the police announced it was 5:30 p.m., well. Oh, so everything she drank since the morning wasn't just a few small sips, but rather a long-lasting drinking campaign that surpassed all limits of a few drinks. And of course, her breath test proved that with a unique result that even challenge enthusiasts wouldn't dare dream of. She might have thought a little drink was just a joke, but the result turned into a breath competition that no one won. So finally, we've reached the most exciting part of the story, the part everyone's waiting for, the arrest process. And just as you guessed, Hillary didn't just have a regular afternoon like anyone else, but also got to experience all the privileges that only the U.S. law could offer. Imagine, she was completely elevated when the police not only tested her physical condition but also her mental state. You know, breath tests, reflexes, and cognitive abilities, which Hillary probably just wanted to crawl into the ground at that moment. The police, with all their seriousness, did everything by the book. Truly, not a single detail was missed. Not only did they ask her to do tests like tracking a finger and walking in a straight line, physical tests that even an Olympic athlete could fail if sleep-deprived. But don't worry, Hillary didn't miss any of these. They also didn't forget to ask her to do cognitive tests, starting with the letter F and ending with T. A tough challenge, I must say. All of this was just to ensure that Hillary wasn't a victim of any kind of drugs or alcohol. And of course, you couldn't miss a breath test, where the police would see if she could blow out enough liquid to create a cocktail party. The police, not leaving any detail behind, didn't forget to inform Hillary of all the rights she had, including the right to remain silent, a right Hillary probably wished she'd exercised long ago. But don't forget, she didn't just get to enjoy a full afternoon of legal rights, but also got the police's gentle explanation of being arrested for driving drunk. Oh, and let's not forget her blood alcohol level was 4 times the legal limit, a notable achievement in Hillary's art of drinking. Pretty impressive, huh? The police, with a calm and collected tone, started the conversation by informing Hillary of something she's probably heard many times in her life. You have the right to remain silent. Yes, indeed, in a situation like this, nothing makes more sense than silence. Even if you may not know why you drank while driving, clearly, the perfect answer is not answering at all. Even the question, "Why did you drink at this time?" could be answered with complete silence, like a silent competition, and Hillary won hands down. But the police didn't stop there. They continued with a gentle reminder, like, "You also have the right to an attorney." Well, not the most exciting right in the world, but if you're feeling uneasy about being arrested for driving like a traffic disaster, at least you can do it with someone professionally trained in this field, right? Of course, if you've turned your car into a race car, but didn't get the desired results, having an attorney by your side is a very welcomed thing. You know, after zigzagging through every road like you're in a speed race, Hillary is definitely going to need someone who understands the law to help her in situations like this. So remember, if you're about to face important decisions like this, maybe it's best to hang out with a legal expert who'll help you explain why, after drinking and driving like a lost soul, you still have the right to communicate legally. Who wouldn't want to be informed of this right, especially when you know that all your mistakes are being watched and recorded by the police officers? And then, with such seriousness that even Hollywood would be in awe, the police graciously informed Hillary that the reason she was welcomed at the station was that she had driven while intoxicated and showed signs of drug use. This wasn't too surprising, was it? Because if you've been following all of Hillary's strange actions earlier, the only thing you couldn't guess was what she would do next. Maybe drive onto the sidewalk or try to park right under a traffic light. Surely, everyone can see that her actions were not of a normal person, not because she wasn't sober, but because it seemed like she had made drunkenness her favorite sport. And here's the most exciting part. The police, with admirable dedication, didn't miss any detail. They carefully listed all of Hillary's mistakes as if they were going through a catalog of classic offenses that every driver wants to avoid, but will certainly find themselves in at least once in their lifetime. First, they listed the fact that she couldn't remember what she drank and when, a big plus for her memory, which she surely had forgotten. Next, they questioned whether she was really an adult operating a vehicle. Then, they continued their roll call with actions like taking her shoes off for no reason or trying to act like nothing was happening when looking at the sunglasses worn backward. One can't help but feel like the police were performing an IQ test on the driver. One could say this was the perfect greeting for a wild night out, and if you're Hillary, meeting the police right after leaving the bar probably makes perfect sense. But instead of a fun night with friends, Hillary will likely have to make friends with a few new people at the station. Oh, and remember, if you refuse to take the breath test, your license will be suspended immediately, the police cleverly added, with a polite but meaningful smile. The gentle voice, but the underlying message was clear. This is not an easy choice. The police didn't need to emphasize further, but clearly, the officer had planned it out well, like a seasoned chess player placing a piece in the right spot, creating an inescapable situation. Hillary, not often facing situations like this, might have thought she could remain silent, refuse, and escape reality for a bit longer. But in that moment, when the police reminded her about the license suspension, it was clear things had gotten much more serious. Yes, this is a game where there's no room for the avoidance strategy. And if Hillary thought she could just dodge like she was at a normal cocktail party, she was terribly wrong. The police are not the type of people who'll let you escape while sipping on your next drink. Here's the translation of your text into English. With that smile, he didn't need to use strong words to make Hillary understand that this wasn't the time for playing the silent game for too long. He only needed to gently paint the scenario. No breath test? Goodbye driver's license. And just like that, without further words, Hillary surely understood that silence was an extremely dangerous gamble. So, with just a little threat, the officer skillfully turned the refusal of the test into an unacceptable choice, making Hillary rethink her decision. This arrest process truly felt like a free tutorial on everything you never wanted to know on a regular day. All that was missing was a class called How Not to Drive While Drunk. Honestly, if you're looking for a complete learning experience on citizen rights when being arrested, this is the class you need to attend. You could learn about the right to remain silent, the right to an attorney, and even the right to avoid answering ridiculous questions like how many drinks you've had that day. But Hillary, it seems like the only thing she needed to learn here was how to recognize when she shouldn't be driving, because maybe she didn't know, but the look in her eyes was not a sign of sobriety. And then, the pinnacle of everything, the breathalyzer test, where her result didn't just exceed the limit, it hit her face like a cake. At this point, Hillary was probably thinking, if I knew I was going to take a breathalyzer test like this, I would have stayed home and played video games instead of going out. But honestly, even though there's a little embarrassment, the look on her face would definitely be priceless at a seminar called Mistakes You Should Never Make on the Weekend. Anyway, maybe Hillary will learn a lesson from this experience, but don't imagine she'll remember everything from this lesson. The truth is, she'll remember one thing. Remember next time not to forget to turn on the hazard lights when driving drunk. Anyway, this is definitely going to become one of the most vivid memories in her collection of moments she'd rather forget. Hillary. After bravely going through the qualitative tests, those tests where if you don't trip or crash your face into the ground while walking, you've pretty much won, she finally enters the more interesting phase of the evening, being searched and put into the police car. Folks, don't think this is a light search like when you're rummaging through your stuff looking for a lost wallet. No, this is a true exploration, as if they're searching for clear evidence to answer the puzzling question. Who was the one who decided Hillary could drive this car without crashing into a tree or anyone else? The police weren't just checking the car, they were looking for any trace, like the sign of someone who believed it was perfectly reasonable for her to drive a car during rush hour without hitting a tree or a person. I really wish they could record a few words from her psychological journal because I bet if they asked, "Hillary, do you think you can drive while drunk?" The answer would definitely be, "Of course. I live nearby." But interestingly, it didn't stop there. The police weren't just checking if she was carrying a gun, though they might find a few hidden bottles of liquor instead of weapons. They were also making sure to find a reasonable explanation for her existence in that car. Who knows? Maybe Hillary was just a victim of a bad decision, of having 2 cocktails since 11 a.m. and thinking it was 11 p.m. When the police put Hillary in the car, she probably didn't expect to get news that would make someone seriously question the existence of humanity under harsh conditions. Her breath alcohol level was 0.34. Yes, you didn't mishear. That number isn't a typo. 0.34, a number so high that if you compare it to the legal limit of 0.08, you can only conclude that Hillary participated in a drink as much as you can without passing out contest, and in that case, she would definitely win a gold medal. The police announced this number like they just uncovered a scientific secret no one dared to explore. Can the human body withstand this much alcohol without falling apart? And imagine you're a researcher, desperately trying to conduct this experiment, fully believing no one could survive with this level of alcohol, but Hillary did it. She just set a new record for surviving the experiment. And don't forget, this level of 0.34 is 4 times the legal limit. A number that, if you're a drinker, you'd have to tip your hat and say, "Oh, now I know what it takes to reach this level." It feels like the police were about to take a picture because they were witnessing a historical feat no one had ever seen before. At that alcohol level, Hillary had reached a new level of automation. No need to do anything, just let the car move and she just sat there, not even needing to steer. Honestly, if Hillary keeps this up, she wouldn't need self-driving cars. Her car might just automatically find its way home without any intervention from her. The police, looking at her astonishing BAC, must have been wondering if she was testing a new product, super drinking powers. And it seems they couldn't help but laugh when they told Hillary that not only had she exceeded the limit, but she had broken the record of that very limit. "Oh, you've exceeded the limit, but don't worry, at least you can do one thing. Impress everyone with this BAC," a statement that sounded like she just won the Outstanding Alcoholic Award. Maybe if Hillary stood up to accept the award, she could use that BAC as a VIP pass to any bar without needing to show ID. But don't forget, she might no longer need a driver's license since her car might have already decided on the direction for itself. Oh, and here's the dramatic part of the story. Hillary and the police start a very important discussion about whether she can be released if someone posts bail or if she'll have to enjoy a long vacation in jail. No Wi-Fi, no Netflix, just police officers and strange knocking sounds. Really, even a purse snatcher is allowed bail if they want to get out, but Hillary didn't seem worried about this. Maybe in her mind, everything was still fine, like she was at a party at her house, only with police standing around instead of friends. And then the police, who were still very serious and clearly hadn't been taught customer service, informed her, "If no one comes to bail you out, I'm afraid you'll have to stay here for a few days." What a tense moment! The way the officer said that made you think, "Yes, I understand, sir. I'll temporarily vacation in the jail." It felt like they were saying, "If you can't find someone to bail you out, welcome to a 5-star vacation at the police station. Don't worry, everything's included, an uncomfortable bed and 3 meals, or 2 if you're lucky." Hillary didn't seem to care, probably too drunk to understand how serious this was. But there was something funny in the way she completely didn't realize she was facing a very serious situation. The way she didn't worry, as if she was playing a game of cops and robbers, not actually confronting the law. Ah, the final conclusion, where every troublesome situation ends with a sad note. If you think you can escape the police with just a wink and a charming smile, Hillary is living proof that life isn't always fair. After a long afternoon full of challenges, from being questioned about the deadly nature of her sunglasses to the mandatory balance tests, because who wouldn't want to watch someone walk in a straight line with a hip displacement? Hillary finally realized that gambling with the police while intoxicated is a bet she was sure to lose. Now, the story shifts from questions like, "Did you drink?" to, "Well, now you're really facing the consequences." The police, with a clarity and seriousness that only those who have dealt with countless situations like this can understand, determined that, yes, Hillary had made the biggest mistake possible, driving under the influence. Not only that, but when you blow into the breathalyzer and the result shows that your blood alcohol content is 4 times the legal limit, you won't just receive a free trip to jail but also the chance to participate in a program called When Life Takes You into the Legal System. Hillary may very well be added to the list of people who undergo legal procedures that everyone hopes they never have to try. And certainly, those memories will last a long time, with a free night ticket to jail, a few papers related to legal precedents, and a lifetime lesson about never underestimating the seriousness of the police, especially when you're experiencing alcohol levels that exceed the legal limit. And so, just like every other similar situation, the police didn't waste a single moment. They prepared to take Hillary to jail as if it were a special reward she had won in some strange contest, like who can drink the most and still try to drive. They processed her with surprising precision, as if each step were designed to optimize the smoothness of the arrest. In fact, if you were watching, you might imagine you're watching a half-baked action movie, something like The Trip That Wasn't All That Fun, but definitely unmissable. Hillary. Well, she probably still thinks she's just heading home, casually as usual, with dreamy eyes imagining her cozy bed, maybe even dreaming of a not-so-bad morning. But life is never that easy. And now, she realizes that instead of heading home, she took a completely new road, one that involves ID cards she'll surely never forget. Who knows, perhaps this is a form of adventure she never wanted, but was gifted for free. Hillary's story is a profound lesson about the unavoidable consequences that arise when we lack clarity and fail to anticipate risks. Driving under the influence is not only a violation of the law but also puts both oneself and others in danger. While Hillary may not fully recognize the situation she faces, the legal system and law enforcement are always ready to enforce justice strictly. The lesson here is not just about accepting the consequences, but also a reminder that every decision can lead to unforeseeable repercussions. It is especially crucial to understand one's limits and know when to stop. Ultimately, this story serves as a wake-up call about the seriousness of the law and the necessity of being fully aware in every situation to avoid regrettable circumstances that could have been easily prevented.